David Muir, ABC's World News Tonight, America's most watched newscast. Now streaming same day with all the breaking news of the day on Disney+. Most watched, most trusted. Now on Disney+ every night.
Tonight we do have breaking news as we come on. The first named tropical storm of the season slamming into the U.S. right now. Also tonight, the horrific accident in New York's Central Park. First tonight, these severe storms, Tropical Storm Arthur slamming into several states. Life-threatening flooding, up to 20 inches of rain possible. Also right now, tornado watches and warnings up multiple states in the Midwest. Then damaging winds possible into the Northeast. Ginger Z standing by live in the storm zone with the forecast. The fiery plane crash onto the interstate. Witnesses could see people on board were still alive and moving in the cabin. They rush in to save them, two men using a sledgehammer to try to open the door. Tonight, just in, the alarming scene in New York's Central Park turning deadly. Video showing the moment one of those famous carriage horses breaks loose, a family thrown. One person rushed to the hospital in critical condition. He has now died. President Trump and his deal with Iran. Tonight, U.S. officials now revealing what Iran is set to get when they open the Strait of Hormuz. Tonight, some Republicans in Washington already furious. One saying Ronald Reagan would be rolling over in his grave, calling this the worst foreign policy blunder in decades. Tonight, the New York serial killer face to face with the families of 8 women he killed. The dramatic exchange in court, you'll hear it, what the convicted serial killer said. The judge then asking, are you not sorry at all? The major turn tonight, the case against alleged CEO killer Luigi Mangione, what he will now claim as his defense. Tonight, the fallout and protests after a 1-year-old is killed in a Walmart parking lot when police open fire on a car. Tonight, the major headline, what the NYPD is now saying about the Knicks parade tomorrow here in New York City. Tonight, not again, our runway at New York's LaGuardia Airport now closed. First, after that sinkhole closed the same runway, what they've noticed now. Tonight, a U.S. Olympic champion suffering a medical emergency, collapsing, no pulse for a time, and what we've learned. The World Cup frenzy, Lionel Messi's stunning hat trick, fans from overseas all over America tonight. And is it true? Has Boston really run out of beer? And tonight here, we remember a founding member of the band Chicago.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening. We'll get to that fiery plane crash, bystanders saving passengers from the cabin, and this horrific accident in Central Park earlier today. But we begin tonight with this first named tropical storm of the season slamming into the U.S. at this hour. Hitting the Gulf Coast from Texas to Georgia tonight. Tropical storm Arthur, winds up to 45 miles per hour and a storm surge up to 4 feet. Expected to drop up to 20 inches of rain. At the same time tonight, in the Midwest at this hour, there are tornado watches and warnings up right now across multiple states, and damaging winds possible right into the Northeast. Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z in the storm zone. She leads us off tonight.
Tonight, millions on alert for severe storms in the Midwest. As Tropical Storm Arthur hugs the Texas coast, life-threatening flooding possible from Texas to Louisiana. Our Melissa Adan in Galveston.
Tropical Storm Arthur formed this morning, and it is bringing gusty winds here along the Texas coast, as well as this storm surge up to 4 feet in some parts. But the main concern, rainfall totals up to 20 inches in some parts.
Outside New Orleans, in Covington, Louisiana, Luke and Nicole Barwick are filling sandbags.
God willing, this is, an adventure we won't have to go through, but just in case, we want to be safe.
Flash flooding turning deadly overnight in Magnolia, Texas. Authorities say they recovered the body of a 15-year-old who drowned in a flooded retention pond. In the Midwest, a major threat for tornadoes, destructive winds, and flooding looming through tonight. AccuWeather storm chasers tracking the system. In Monmouth, Illinois, straight-line winds from an early round of storms derailing this train.
So we're watching the Gulf tonight, the Midwest, potentially the Northeast next. So Ginger, what's the latest with this tropical system?
Yeah, we had tornado sirens just about an hour and a half ago here, David, but now there is a tornado warning just 10 miles to our south. There are several along this line that we're seeing all the way back into Kansas, one up there in southwestern Wisconsin by itself. Flood watches from Detroit to Lexington. The next couple of hours, any cell that forms on this line has the potential to twist. We have known that these ingredients have been together, a lot of this energy in the atmosphere, and that's why Indianapolis over to Springfield, Charleston, Illinois, all included tonight. Now, Now, tomorrow, you mentioned it, where we end up with a level 2 out of 5, Burlington, Boston, New York City, Philadelphia, all of New Jersey, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., and Roanoke, Virginia. Main hazard there is damaging wind. Go to the Gulf Coast. We've got to talk Arthur. It is hugging the coast now, but it will move over Louisiana. It's not just that coastal flooding and the surge push, but really about that life-threatening flash flooding. Baton Rouge to Atlanta under flood watch tomorrow, 2 to 4 inch per hour rainfall rates, David.
All right, watching Arthur and this really dangerous situation across the Midwest at this hour. Ginger, thank you. In the meantime, we turn to this fiery plane crash onto the interstate in Laredo, Texas. Witnesses could see that people on board were still alive and moving in the cabin. They rushed in to save them, 2 men using a sledgehammer to try to open the door. Gio Benitez covers aviation for us.
Tonight, these Good Samaritans are being hailed heroes for saving several people who were trapped inside this burning plane that crash landed on a busy highway in Laredo, Texas.
Oh my God.
Watch the heart-stopping moment when those drivers search for survivors, trying to smash the cockpit with a sledgehammer, others using a shovel to prop open the door. Around 10 p.m. local time, this is what those drivers saw. A private Cessna Citation Latitude jet with 6 people on board slamming into a light post and a car before breaking apart on that highway. You can see half of the fuselage now hanging off the side.
We saw that there was actually movement inside the aircraft. That's when my husband jumped out of the car and went straight to help out.
The jet inbound from San Jose del Cabo and was trying to get to Austin. The pilots diverting to Laredo after reporting mechanical issues, the plane losing contact with the tower, crashing moments later.
The problems with the airplane may have occurred almost 300 miles south of Laredo as the aircraft began to descend out of 43,000 feet. So the NTSB will want to know, why did they continue on almost 300 miles more?
And David, while 5 people survived, 1 person did die. And now we're learning tonight that he was the visionary founder of a tech and startup company in Texas. David?
It is still just a good thing those bystanders were there. Gio Benitez tonight. Gio, thank you. Meantime, in New York City today, the alarming and deadly scene in New York's Central Park. Video showing the moment one of those famous carriage horses breaks loose. A family of tourists thrown. An 18-year-old then rushed to the hospital in critical condition. We have learned tonight he has now died. ABC's Matt Rivers in Central Park.
Tonight, this is the terrifying moment. A horse-drawn carriage takes off in Central Park. The horse bolting as a family of 4 tourists barely hangs on inside. In the video, you can see someone falling to the pavement as the horse sprints out of control, the carriage driver seen chasing after it. Moments later, this video showing the carriage crashing into another and flipping onto its side. And late today, authorities confirming an 18-year-old man who fell from the carriage has died. It happened near Tavern on the Green shortly before 3 p.m.
I saw the horse stumble, and his friend was right next door to him, and then it just collided and it turned into a mess.
That horse is okay, but this is the second incident involving New York's famous and controversial carriage horses in just over a week. This horse collapsed and died after officials say it ate a highly toxic poisonous plant. And tonight, new calls from animal rights groups and the Central Park Conservancy to ban the horse carriages, long a subject of intense debate in the city.
And David, that shocking video tonight, that horse completely out of control. And again, we've just learned that tragic news that 18-year-old who fell from that carriage has died. David?
Yeah, truly horrific images. Matt Rivers up in Central Park for us. Matt, thank you. Now to Iran. President Trump and his deal with Iran tonight. U.S. officials now revealing what Iran is set to get when they open the Strait of Hormuz. And tonight, some Republicans in Washington already angry. One saying Ronald Reagan would be rolling over in his grave, calling this the worst foreign policy blunder in decades. Rachel Scott traveling with the president.
Tonight, U.S. officials presenting the peace deal, lifting the American blockade of Iranian ports, rewarding Iran for reopening the Strait of Hormuz, and laying the groundwork for 60 days of future talks about their nuclear program. President Trump acknowledges Iran's decision to close the strait was putting too much pressure on the American economy.
I didn't want to see economic catastrophe. If you kept this going, that could have happened. But all I know is every time we talked about the possibility of peace, the stock market shot up like a rocket ship.
The agreement lifts sanctions on Iran, letting them resume oil sales. And it says Iran and Oman will administer the strait, something that was not the case before the war and could open the door for Iran to eventually collect fees from tankers and cargo ships. The U.S. also committing to release billions of dollars in frozen Iranian assets.
We have taken their money. It's not our money, it's their money. And we froze it. At a certain point in time, I guess we're going to have to give it back.
Iran reaffirms that it shall not procure or develop nuclear weapons. Reaffirms because it made that same pledge in the first line of the Obama nuclear deal. But unlike that deal, Iran's agreement with President Trump includes no other nuclear commitments, just a pledge to keep talking, including about how Iran could dispose of its highly enriched uranium. And there's something else. On day one of the war, the president vowed to obliterate Iran's ballistic missile program. Today, a reversal.
They have to have some because other people have some. You got to have some. Missiles aren't the problem. Missiles are, they hurt a little location, but they don't blow up the planet.
And David, one more thing. As part of these talks, the U.S. would help create a $300 billion fund to help Iran rebuild. The administration says this would not be taxpayer money. But tonight, some Republicans are outraged. Senator Bill Cassidy saying Reagan is rolling over in his grave, calling this the worst foreign policy blunder in decades, David.
Rachel Scott, who's been traveling with the president live from Geneva again tonight. Rachel, thank you. Tonight, the major turn in the case against alleged CEO killer Luigi Mangione, what he's now planning as his defense. Here's Rhiannon Alley.
Tonight, a dramatic turn in the case of accused CEO killer Luigi Mangione. A judge now revealing Mangione's lawyers plan to use a psychiatric defense in his state trial, claiming during that time Mangione was suffering an extreme emotional disturbance and was not in control of himself when prosecutors say he gunned down United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson on a New York City sidewalk in 2024.
This is technically an effort to get a lesser conviction, meaning instead of murder, it could be manslaughter. If he's convicted of manslaughter instead of murder, you're talking about the possibility of a decade in prison instead of life in prison.
The judge today ordering defense lawyers to turn over psychiatric records immediately, saying nothing is going to be a surprise. So get it done. Mangione was arrested in Pennsylvania less than a week after the shooting, and last month the judge ruled a gun found in his backpack during his arrest could be used against him at the trial, as well as this red notebook containing writings prosecutors say amount to a confession and point to premeditation.
David, Luigi Mangione has pleaded not guilty to all charges. His state trial is set to begin in September. David?
Rhiannon Alley with us here tonight. Rhiannon, thank you. We turn now to the dramatic scene in a New York City courtroom today. The Long Island serial killer who worked in New York City for years as an architect, coming face to face with the families of the 8 women he killed. Aaron Katersky was in the courtroom.
Tonight, after an agonizing wait for justice, families tormented by the suburban dad who worked as an architect in New York City and who lived a double life as the Gilgo Beach serial killer, coming face to face with the monster who murdered their loved ones and haunted Long Island for a generation.
And that pain is unbearable. I lived with survivor's guilt for over a decade.
In a 17-year killing spree, Rex Heuermann murdered 8 women he hired as escorts. They were sisters, daughters, mothers. Liliana Waterman was 3 when her mom, Megan, vanished.
Rex Heuermann did not just take my mother's life. He stole an entire lifetime of memories that me and her never got to make.
When it was his turn to speak, Heuermann gave those families nothing.
There are no words I can say. I am responsible for what was said in this room today. The words I would say have no meaning.
The judge indignant.
Are you a little bit sorry for what you did to these poor innocent women? 8 women that you strangled to death, at least 8 that we know of. Are you at least a little bit sorry for that? Yes?
Yes, I am.
You know what? You've been described as a very big man. But you're a disgusting and despicable small man, if you're a man at all. And you're a coward.
The judge then sent Heuermann to prison for life.
Get him out of here.
Families clapped and jeered, shouting him out of the room and out of their lives after a 33-year nightmare. What did it mean to you to be able to confront him in court? Did it bring any comfort?
I wouldn't say comfort, but it's a day that I've been thinking of my whole life. The chance to finally speak up for her, it gives me comfort for her, knowing she can finally lay down, rest in peace, and he can't hurt anybody else.
In the end, David, Rex Heuermann stood alone. His ex-wife and daughter skipped court today. His sentencing concludes the case, but prosecutors say there is one additional victim they are still working to identify. David?
Aaron Katersky, who was in that courtroom today for us. Aaron, thank you. Next tonight, growing outrage over the deadly police shooting of a toddler in a parking lot outside Memphis. The mother of one-year-old Cohen Wiley says police opened fire on the car she was riding in while they were responding to a shoplifting call. Officers claim they opened fire when the driver nearly hit them trying to leave. The officer now on administrative leave, protesters demanding that the officer be arrested. When we come back here tonight, what the NYPD is now saying about this Knicks victory parade tomorrow in the city, the force they plan to show, and what they're saying tonight for anyone who plans to go. That's coming up here. Also, look at this. Not again. The same runway at New York's LaGuardia Airport closed again after that sinkhole caused so many problems, delays. What they've now noticed about that same runway, and the U.S. Olympic champion suffering a medical emergency, collapsing, no pulse for a time, and what we've learned about her in just a moment here. Tonight, the NYPD says it is gearing up for tomorrow's historic parade of champions for the Knicks with an historic show of force. More than 10,000 NYPD members will be on duty, the largest number in history for a single event. Millions of fans expected. The fans will be screened at one of 23 access points before lining the so-called Canyon of Heroes parade route from the southern tip of Manhattan all the way to City Hall. That's where Mayor Mamdani will give the teams the keys of the city. The parade kicks off at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Can't wait. Well, tonight here, not again. The same runway at New York's LaGuardia Airport is closed again, this time because of a 2-inch depression, they're calling it. Now, this is the same runway that was closed last month because of a sinkhole. Crews on the scene working on potential repairs right now. At this hour, there are 200 delays so far. They say they hope to reopen the runway tomorrow morning. When we come back on the broadcast tonight, the Olympic runner collapsing at a meet without a pulse for a time and what we've learned about her condition. And tonight here, we remember a founding member of the rock band Chicago. He was responsible for its sound. In a moment. To the index of other news tonight, Olympic runner Jenny Simpson collapsed during a medical emergency at a track event in Raleigh, North Carolina. An event official tonight saying Simpson was without a pulse for a time. Bystanders and first responders doing CPR using an external defibrillator before she was taken to the hospital. Jenny Simpson is one of the most accomplished women's 1,500-meter runners, winning the bronze medal in 2016. She's just 39. We are thinking about her tonight. We do have a passing to note tonight. Walter Parazaider, a woodwind player and a founding member of the band Chicago, has died. A rock and roll band with horns was Walt's idea, the band said on Instagram today, and they became one of the most successful ever, with 21 top 10 singles and members of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, of course. Parazaider died this morning following a battle with Alzheimer's. He was 81. When we come back here tonight, the World Cup frenzy, Lionel Messi's stunning hat trick last night, and fans from around the world are now here in the U.S. So is it true? Has Boston really run out of beer? Finally tonight here, the World Cup frenzy from Lionel Messi's stunning hat trick to all those international visitors loving American barbecue and beer. Tonight, World Cup fever. Phenom Lionel Messi, who made history overnight in Kansas City, Missouri. At 38 years old, becoming the first man ever to play at 6 World Cups. Messi scoring a stunning hat trick, 3 goals, tying the all-time record for goals scored at the World Cup. And tonight, with fans from around the world now across the U.S., many are now sharing what they're loving about it. Southern barbecue, mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese here in the States is better than the UK, just a fact.
Even visiting gas stations, the famous giant Southern chain Buc-ee's.
So excited about arriving at a Buc-ee's. I'm going to put these in my suitcase and fly them back to Scotland.
Going to baseball games too. In Boston at Fenway Park, international visitors playing bagpipes as they march in for a Red Sox-Rangers game. And not just the bagpipes at Fenway, those famous American songs too. I wanna know. And in the pubs of Boston, fans from Scotland singing the Star-Spangled Banner. The first time in 28 years Scotland has qualified. Their team winning their first match against Haiti this week in Boston, playing their second there on Friday.
We're going to come here, we're going to drink your beer, and we're going to have a right good time while we're doing it.
And tonight the Boston pubs telling us they're quickly running out of beer, but they still have some. I have faith. I've been to some of those Boston pubs. They'll keep up. And I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
David Muir, the most trusted, most watched newscast in America. And now, ABC's World News Tonight has won the Emmy for Best Live News Program for the 4th year in a row.